In 1971, Chrysler's engineers received a classified memo. A government agent stood in their boardroom. Their mission: kill the 446-pack. But was it really the feds or a betrayal from within? Was the legendary Chrysler 446-pack engine really the target of a takedown? Did NASCAR rules crush one of the fiercest muscle car engines ever made, or was it simply the victim of corporate fighting and engineering subterfuge? Let's break down the tangled story of Chrysler and expose the conspiracy that strangled one of America's most dangerous engines. 1969, Detroit's horsepower war raged. Chrysler engineers, led by maverick John Worley, secretly modified the 440 with 3 Holley carburetors, a 6-pack of raw power. Tuning that triple carb setup was a nightmare. But when it sang, man, it sounded like the Devil's Symphony. But Chrysler's execs hated it. The 6-pack outsold the Hemi 3-1, stealing glory and budgets from their prized race engine. And that's what made the 446-pack so special in the first place. In the late 1960s, America was in the midst of a horsepower war. Manufacturers were constantly one-upping each other with bigger, more powerful engines. Chrysler's 440 cubic inch V8 was already a formidable player, but engineers knew they could extract more performance. Their solution was to take the already potent 440 and add 3 2-barrel Holley carburetors on an aluminum intake manifold. The result was the 446-pack, which was marketed as the 446-barrel in Dodge vehicles, an engine that produced an advertised 390 horsepower and a monstrous 490 pound-feet of torque. The 6-pack designation came from the triple 2-barrel carburetors, giving the engine a total of 6 barrels, hence 6-pack. This wasn't just marketing hype. The additional carburetors dramatically improved the engine's breathing capability. At cruising speeds, only the center carburetor operated, offering reasonable fuel economy for such a large displacement engine. But when the driver smashed the accelerator pedal, vacuum-operated linkages brought out the outer carburetors, unleashing the full fury of those 440 horsepower. When the 446-pack debuted in 1969, it was initially available in the Dodge, Super Bee, and Plymouth Roadrunner as part of the A12 package. These cars weren't just about the engine. They featured a distinctive matte black fiberglass hood with a massive functional air scoop, heavy-duty suspension components, and 15-inch steel wheels with no hubcaps. These were serious performance machines designed for straight-line acceleration. The 6-pack equipped Roadrunners and Super Bees could blast through the quarter-mile in the high 13-second range, which was blistering performance for a production car in the late 1960s. But what were the differences between Dodge and Plymouth versions of the 446-pack? The Dodge and Plymouth versions of the Chrysler 446-pack engine were fundamentally similar, but they had distinct differences in branding, design, and application. While Dodge referred to it as the 6-pack, Plymouth chose the name 6-barrel. Despite the name change, both engines were almost the same. In terms of performance, both versions used a triple 2-barrel Holley carburetor setup designed to maximize airflow and boost acceleration. Early models from both brands featured aluminum intake manifolds, but Chrysler later switched to cast iron in some applications to cut costs. While the engines were mechanically identical, minor tuning differences sometimes gave Dodge or Plymouth models a slight edge depending on the application. The cars that carried these powerful engines reflected the distinct identities of Dodge and Plymouth. Dodge models like the Super Bee, Charger RT, and Challenger RT were known for their aggressive styling and track-ready features. Many came equipped with a Hearst Competition Plus shifter and bold design elements. On the other hand, Plymouth introduced the 6-barrel in the Roadrunner GTX and later the Cuda, showcasing a more classic muscle car look. Vehicles like the A12 Roadrunner stood out with their lightweight fiberglass hoods featuring prominent air scoops secured by racing-style hood pins. But what many don't realize is that the 446-pack wasn't actually Chrysler's most powerful engine offering. That honor belonged to the legendary 426 Hemi, which produced an officially rated 425 horsepower, though many experts believe this figure was deliberately lied about. So why did the 6-pack develop such a cult following when it wasn't even the top dog in Chrysler's kennel? The answer lies in its perfect balance of cost, availability, and real-world performance. The 426 Hemi was significantly more expensive than the 440 pack, adding nearly $900 to the price of a car, a substantial sum in the late 1960s when a base Roadrunner could be had for around $3,000. The 6-pack option by comparison was much more affordable. Additionally, the 440 6-pack was easier to maintain and tune than the more complex Hemi. In real-world driving conditions, particularly on the street where perfect launches were difficult, many 6-pack equipped cars could hang with their Hemi counterparts. This combination of accessible price, manageable maintenance and performance made the 440 6-pack an instant legend among muscle car enthusiasts. The 1969 and 1970 model years really represent the golden age of the 440 6-pack. In 1969 it was limited to the A12 package cars, but for 1970, Chrysler expanded its availability. The engine could now be ordered in Plymouth's Barracuda and GTX models, as well as Dodge's Challenger RT and Coronet RT. This wider availability, coincided with what many folks considered to be the absolute peak of the muscle car era, with stunning designs like the E-Body Challenger and Barracuda showcasing that potent engine. It's worth noting that the 1970 version of the 440 6-pack received some minor modifications compared to the previous year. The compression ratio was bumped slightly from 10.5 to 1 up to 10.7 to 1, and the camshaft profile was revised for better performance. The result was the same advertised horsepower and torque figures. But honestly, a lot of enthusiasts believe the 1970 engines performed better in real-world conditions. The 1970 6-pack engines also featured improved valve springs and connecting rod bolts for enhanced durability. So, how did the 440 6-pack's torque boost affect its drag strip performance? Well, the Chrysler 440 6-pack's massive torque was a key reason it dominated out there. With huge amounts of torque, rivaling even the famous 426 Hemi, it really had the muscle to launch hard and accelerate rapidly. One big advantage was its low RPM peak, hitting max torque at just 3,200 RPM. This gave cars like the Dodge Super Bee and Plymouth Roadrunner the power to leap off the line with minimal wheel spin, making those first seconds count. To handle all that force, these cars were built with some pretty smart design choices. A Dana 60 rear axle with 410-to-1 gears and staggered leaf springs kept the tires gripping the pavement, reducing wheel hop and maximizing traction. But in 1971, things began to change dramatically for high-performance engines across the American automotive landscape. This is where the controversy about the 440 6-pack being banned really begins to take shape. The truth is far more complex than a simple government edict, forcing Chrysler to abandon their prized engine. Several factors converged in the early 1970s that spelled doom for the high-compression, high-horsepower engines that defined the muscle car era. First and foremost was the implementation of stricter emissions regulations. The Clean Air Act of 1970 gave the newly formed Environmental Protection Agency broad powers to regulate vehicle emissions, and automakers were scrambling to comply with the new standards. High-compression engines that relied on leaded gasoline were particularly problematic from an emissions standpoint. At the same time, insurance companies were really taking aim at high-performance vehicles. Young drivers in powerful muscle cars were causing accidents at alarming rates, and insurance premiums for vehicles like the 6-pack equipped Roadrunners and Challengers were skyrocketing. Some insurance companies even refused to cover certain high-performance models, making them effectively unmarketable to a significant portion of the buying public. A third factor was the looming fuel crisis. Although the major oil embargo wouldn't hit until 1973, concerns about fuel economy were already beginning to influence automotive design and marketing by 1971. Gas-guzzling muscle cars were starting to fall out of favor with both consumers and automotive executives, who were worried about future fuel availability and pricing. In response to these pressures, Chrysler made significant changes to the 440 6-pack for the 1971 model year. The compression ratio was reduced from 10.7 to 1 down to 9.5 to 1, allowing the engine to run on lower-octane unleaded gasoline. This change, combined with more restrictive exhaust systems to meet emissions requirements, reduced the official horsepower rating to 385. That's only a 5-horsepower drop on paper, but, the real-world performance difference was more noticeable. Despite these challenges, the 440 6-pack soldiered on for the 1971 model year, still offering impressive performance by the standards of the day. It remained available in the Plymouth Roadrunner, GTX, and Barracuda. as well as the Dodge Charger RT and Challenger RT. However, sales of performance models were declining across the board as the market shifted.